So I thought I'd start tonight with a story, kind of icebreaker story. And it's a story about an event. I went to a memorial service. It's been a few years ago. It was a memorial service for a fellow named Lou Hartman, a practitioner of the way at the the San Francisco Zen Center, where I trained for a number of years. And that ceremony had a number of speakers, but the most featured speaker was Norman Fisher, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with through his writings and talks and so forth, and book endorsements. And he appears everywhere, it seems. But Norman spoke lovingly about Lou Hartman, of course, as one does at a memorial service, but also he gave Lou some feedback, which is kind of unusual for a memorial service. You know, that's usually not the time we give people feedback, but Norman gave Lou some at this memorial service, and he told this story that. Of course, Lou he was at the Zen Center for many years, and he had been head student, and he had given talks. But as time went on, when people would come to ask him to give the Dharma talk, he would say, well, no, I can't do that right now. I've recently had an insight, and it's completely changed my understanding, and I need time to incorporate this understanding before I can give the talk. And so, of course, the person would say, very well, but then somebody would come back in another maybe few months and thinking, well, by now he will have incorporated his understanding and will benefit from hearing his understanding. And lo and behold, Lou would say, I've recently had an insight which has totally changed my understanding of Buddhism and Zen, and I need more time to incorporate that insight before I can speak. And apparently this became a standing dodge for him to refuse to give a Dharma talk at the Zen Center. And of course, Norman praised Lou, in many ways during his eulogy, and spoke highly of him in terms of his practice. They had practiced together at Hare, Zen Mountain Center, and he said that Lou was always one of the first people seated in the Zendo when the Han would start. Lou would be like at the door, ready to go into the Zendo. So he was a very devoted practitioner, but he developed this habit in his later years of refusing to speak. And I can really, when I heard that story, and since then, since I do get invited to speak, actually I invite myself a lot, which is kind of the problem that you have when you're running a small group. So I have to invite myself, which isn't ideal, but I do that. And but I can sympathize with Lou's predicament. It's hard to feel that one fully has things in one's grasp in terms of speaking. And I often wonder, is what I'm going to say, is that going to really cut close to the bone? Is it really going to be just the right thing? Is it accurate? Is it really true? Is it what people want to hear? Is it what people are ready to hear? So all these kinds of questions come up, and one has uncertainty about what one is going to say. But I think this uncertainty is not a bad thing. I would rather meet a teacher who had such uncertainties than one who somehow represented that they had the Buddha Dharma completely under their grasp and sphere of knowledge. And I don't know if I could trust that kind of a teacher. I think having some uncertainty, some question, we're always ready. We're always ready. The Dharma is always ready to be questioned, to be thought about again, to be turned over in a new light. And so in that sense, I think Lou had it just right. But I think, excuse me, I think he must have known, I know he did know, many stories of the ancients who also professed that they didn't know. They didn't know. Bodhidharma, of course, when the emperor approached him asking, "Who is this facing me?" said, "I don't know." And Dizong said, not knowing is most intimate. Not knowing is most intimate with the way. So Lu was really, in very good company. But when Zen masters say that they don't know, it's not. This is a word I don't use very often, but nescience. I mean, it's not, just ignorance. It's just not. I don't know. It's not that, and it's not modesty either. It's realizing, it's presenting actually that the Dharma is a many-faceted jewel. It has many sides, and at any one time, part of that jewel is facing us and part of it is facing away. And so we can't really present. We always to one extent or another, have to be somewhat one-sided. We have to present a facet of the Dharma. We can't present the whole as one complete finished product, all wrapped up in a bow. Here you go. Like when they hand you your robe in Jukai, you think, oh, now I have it all. But not so. I'll up with this phrase. This is Jim's phrase from the Diamond Sutra. It follows the pattern of the Diamond Sutra, but I made it up. So it goes like this. How does a bodhisattva understand the Dharma? He understands by not standing in standing. Just so does a bodhisattva understand the Dharma. That's not a quote, I just made that up, but that's the pattern, or that's the language, that's the kind of language of the Diamond Sutra, and the perfection of wisdom in general, right? So, so what do Zen students want? What do they want to hear? Well, and to me, it comes down to they want to hear something that we want to hear something that I don't want to say increases, but that encourage us is in faith in our own capacity for Dharma. So I was about to say that one of the facets of the Dharma that we are often encouraged to study as Zen practitioners is the 6 paramitas. And I'm sure you've had many talks about the 6 paramitas. So I'll just briefly mention, since I always encourage people to have these committed to memory, giving, morality or precepts, patience, enthusiasm for the practice of samadhi, and of course, the perfection of wisdom. All these perfections, which are designed to help us and encourage us to fulfill our vow to liberate with all beings, to practice and live for the benefit of all beings. So these 6 paramitas are so important to study and hold up to the light of our frequent tendency towards being selfish, off the beam, ethically, impatient, unenthusiastic in the doldrums, so to speak, and so on. So these practices are here to encourage us, to keep us moving forward, to keep us going back to the cushion and resting in the Dharma body. And so the most important for Zen people, I shouldn't say most important, but what I would like to say tonight is, we emphasize, there's kind of an emphasis in Zen on the 5th paramita. This is our main deal, right? We go to our cushions on a daily basis. We go to retreats on a monthly or frequent basis, always returning to the practice of Zazen. And Zazen is something that demands our full participation. You can't go to, well, you can try going to a retreat and not really being there, or having some other agenda that you haven't set aside. But that's very, very difficult, and you're guaranteed to have a day or a week of suffering if you can't fully bring yourself to the retreat space, to the cushion, especially over a number of periods. You have to, I just feel this downward movement. You have to go down into your actual experience. You have to embrace your actual experience in the body. Find that center, find that actual experience. And you keep doing that over and over until consciousness will release, will ultimately, release its grip on you. And then you can go on and on. When consciousness releases its grip on you, you can go on and on. You can practice for days and days. But you have to work. You have to suffer a little bit first, because consciousness has a tendency not to want to release its grip. It wants to hold on to us. So speaking of encouragement, I would like to encourage you, I hope to encourage you with this story. And this story is one you may know. Maybe there's been talks about it before, but this is case 91 from the Blue Cliff record. And it's also case 25 in the Book of Serenity. If you want to go later and read this case, it's called Yin Quan's Rhinoceros, or Yin Quan's Rhinoceros Fan. Some people familiar with this story? Maybe not so much. Okay, good. Maybe I get to be the first person to tell you it. So one day, Yin Quan called to his attendant, "Bring me the rhinoceros fan," And the attendant said, "The fan is broken." Yin Quan said, "If the fan is broken, bring the rhinoceros back to me. Bring me the rhinoceros." The attendant had no reply. So commenting on this story, Master Todzu said, I do not fear to bring it out. In other words, I don't fear to speak in front of the assembly. I don't fear that. But I fear the horn on its head will be imperfect. So maybe this was in the back of, Lou's mind. It's just not going to be perfect. It's just not going to get, I'm not going to be able to say it just so. Maybe, I don't know. I fear the horn on its head will be imperfect. And then there's this wonderful comment that, for me, makes the whole case ring, which is Sui Dao, who's the poet who writes in the Blue Cliff Record. He writes the poem to every case. Sui Dao has a comment on Todzu's. Todzu said, I do not fear to bring it out, but I fear the horn on its head will be imperfect. And Sui Dao said, I want an imperfect horn. I want an imperfect horn. How wonderful. So Zen students should ask themselves, are you willing to have an imperfect horn? Are you willing to have what you consider an imperfect practice? Are you willing to have an imperfect understanding? Everybody, everybody at the Zen Center wanted to see Lou Hartman's imperfect Dharma. I can guarantee you that everybody was waiting and wishing for his imperfect Dharma. And he couldn't bring himself to, I don't know, he had some resistance. Let's say he had resistance. I don't know if he had fear. And, there are a lot of, I'm getting to be kind of an old monk myself, and maybe at some point I'll say, no, I don't need to say anything anymore. That's enough. I've said more than enough, which is very much starting to be true. I have said enough, but I guess I don't want it to be, if I say that, I don't want it to be because I think, I just never really got there, I never had the, and the funny thing is, in our tradition, we say at the beginning of the talk, we have a chant, and the chant is, we bring forward is an unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma. That's what it says. It says that's what we're bringing forward is an unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma. Oh dear, what a setup. So, it's hard. It's really hard to hit the mark in practice. And especially, if we stick to this idea that our understanding is defective. If we stick to that idea, it's really hard to hit the mark. And, I really encourage people, and I've been encouraged to just try to be me and just bring forward who I am at this given moment. And that's a very hard thing to do. I was head student for a practice period at Green Gulch Farm, which is a big place. And there were a lot of students there. And I had to bring forward my imperfect Dharma. But I was encouraged to do that. And I was supported to do that. People said, you go ahead, you do that. And we will listen and we'll take it in, and we'll be either encouraged or we won't. But it seemed like whatever it was that I was able to bring forward was encouraging, and it encouraged me. It encouraged me, and this, this is our practice. Just keep going back to the kitchen, the cushion, encouraging ourselves, you know, I would, I'm encouraging myself to bring forward the Dharma body. I would like to bring it forward. I'm just here, you know, ready to bring forward the Dharma body, and not knowing what's going to happen, you know, and then I forget about that. And one day, you know, sometimes it occurs that surprisingly, you know, the Dharma body is here. The Dharma body is here sitting zazen. And I have, you know, such a great respect and trust in this practice. Um, it's not exactly a special experience. I don't want to say that. But it is comes on the heels of devotion to the practice. So in the story, you know, the story of one thing that doesn't happen in the story of Yin Kuan's in asking for the rhinoceros fan, and then the attendant says it's broken. The one thing that doesn't happen is the master doesn't say, well, then get back in there and fix it and bring it back in a nice whole fan to me. He doesn't say, go fix it. He doesn't say, go fix yourself. Now, we might make some efforts, you know, we might make some efforts to fix what's broken, you know, in our lives or in our lives, what's not working, you know, we might make some efforts like that. And I don't denigrate those efforts that we might make. But also we have this wonderful practice where we sit from the standpoint of wholeness, where we sit from the standpoint of no defect, no defect. The fan's broken and that's just fine. You know, there's no defect in your breath. How could there ever be a defect in your breath? Your breath is just your breath, in and out, no defect. Your posture, your upright posture is just your posture. How could there be any defect? Sitting in your breath, in your posture, not allowing not allowing a discouraging word. That's what's coming to me. Or maybe it's the skies are not cloudy all day. I don't know. Discouraging, not allowing the discouraging word. You're out there in the West. I'm out here in the West, but you're more in the West in a way than you're more out there where there's no discouraging words, aren't you? I mean, and the skies are not cloudy all day. I feel like Colorado's more out there than I am. But anyway, I think there can be a meeting. You know, there's some fixing that we might want to do. Many people who are attracted to Zen also are in the helping professions. They're trying to help people fix things, broken things in their lives, trying to fix the fan, you know, and that's good. And then we have that practice of fixing things, and we have the practice of just sitting, not fixing anything, and sitting from the standpoint of our original wholeness, our original nature, just as it is, no need for improvement. And I think those aspects of our life and our practice, they can meet. Those aspects can meet and they can coexist. And we could call that the middle way. We could call that the middle way. It wouldn't be exactly the same understanding as traditional understanding, but it might be close.